Hello, everyone. My name is Amina Kausar. I am an Indian American entrepreneur and an IT professional and an activist. I'm going to moderate this panel. We are going to talk about the discriminatory laws that have been legislated in India since Narendra Modi became the Prime Minister 8 years ago in 2014. The name of this panel is India Nuremberg Laws. As most people know, the Nuremberg Laws were enacted by the Nazi Party when Adolf Hitler came to power in Germany in the 1930s. These laws made discrimination against Jews on the grounds that Jews are not the same as the rest of the Germans. These laws destroyed Germany's civic constitution and understanding that all citizens are equal before the law. This is now happening in India at a very rapid pace. Over the last 8 years, Prime Minister Modi's government has systematically instituted legal governance to discriminate against Muslims and Christians and Dalits in India. Primarily among them is the CAA, or the Citizenship Amendment Act, which was enacted in December 2019. On the face of it, this act is made to look like Indian government's genuine attempt to provide a refuge to the persecuted minorities in India's neighboring countries of Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Bangladesh. But that is just a pretense, as has been pointed out by many authorities around the world, including the USCIRF, that is the United States Commission on International Religious Freedom. The CAA, or the Citizenship Amendment Act, is the law that has been specifically designed to disenfranchise India's 200 million Muslims and ultimately deprive them of their citizenship that they have enjoyed for centuries, for many generations, even before India came to be a republic in its modern form. In addition to these laws, the Indian government has also brought forward other discriminatory laws, and one of them pertains to the rights of Indian citizens to change their religion, the anti-conversion law. These laws, apparently aimed at ensuring freedom of religion, are actually restricting or even denying the freedom to participate in one's faith. These so-called anti-conversion laws are being blatantly abused by the BJP-led state governments to harass and oppress Muslims and Christians by falsely accusing them of carrying out illegal conversions. Indian government has also brought about the love jihad law, which prohibits interfaith couples to marry. Most of these laws are being enacted by various states, but they have gotten the approval of Indian government. These laws are designed to create what is called the quote unquote Hindu Rashtra, the Hindu nation, which is the ultimate goal of the RSS, which is the ideological parent of the BJP. The RSS has existed now for nearly 97 years, and in all these decades, the RSS has been having only one goal, that is to destroy India as a secular land and convert it to a Hindu majority country where Muslims and Christians live as second-class citizens, if at all. To discuss the whole gamut of India's Nuremberg laws, I have an illustrious panel with me today that is going to address each of these laws and the way the Indian citizens who reject these laws are fighting back. To be sure that those who are fighting back are not just Muslims, a large number of non-Muslims are opposed to these laws because they believe that these laws will eventually destroy the composite, plural, secular, democratic nature of India's constitution. With this, I invite our first panelist, Mr. Nadeem Khan. Mr. Nadeem Khan is the convener of United Against Hate, UAH, a collective of activists, and that started in 2017 during the Not in My Name protests against hate crimes. People affiliated with United Against Hate have been arrested.
Sister Amina, Nadeem has not been able to join yet. His link is not working. So maybe we can start with Professor Apurvanathan. Thank you.
No, I am here. You can connect with me. I am listening.
Oh, sorry. I didn't see you on the speaker's screen. Sorry. Thank you.
Sounds good. Brother Nadeem, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Amina. We are living in India and collecting the data and working on it. So when we talk about that citizenship law, we have to go back on the past and check it out. There is a lot of things and a lot of law and a lot of discrimination. Sometimes it's quoted according to Nuremberg law. Sometimes it's underquote. We have, you can remember it was a 19 when I stated there is if you talk about the India, there is a deep state is working in India, and the deep state is basically Islamophobic, anti-Dalit, and anti-minority. And if I start my discussion, then we have to remember 1999, when we have seen the lynching of Graham Staines in Odisha, Manoharpur, and along with his two sons, Philip, age of 10 year, and Timothy, the age of 6 year. And the person who orchestrated this, who organized this lynching, became a BJP's central government minister, name is Pratap Singh Sarangi. So when apart from this CEA protest, when we came back to Dadri and talk about the Akhlaq's lynching, then we find out after the lynching, the investigation is not about the lynching. Investigation was not for the who was the perpetrators, who was the accused. Investigation was going on whether it is a beef or whether it is a mutton. And if you come back to Mewat after the Akhlaq's lynching at the time of Pehlu Khan, then you will find out the first case after the death of Pehlu Khan. The case had been registered against the Pehlu Khan for the cattle smuggling. So victim is accused in all that cases before the lynching. So these kind of the discrimination, we should talk about that. In case of the 2014, before the political patronage, we have seen killing of Sabharwal's, lynching, and lynching of Graham Staines. But the same day, 29th May, when 2014, when Prime Minister Modi was taking the oath at the President's house in New Delhi, the same time first lynching after 2014 have been happened, and Mohsin Sheikh, the person, he was a software engineer, and he had been lynched in a mosque when he was coming out after the Maghrib Salah, and the message spread in a social media, we took first wicket. And surprisingly, the discrimination is not with the executive system. Discrimination in court also. When you will find out the bail order of the accused of Mohsin Sheikh, the person name is Dhananjay Desai, who is a Hindu Sena president of Pune. Justice Sadhna Jadhav said in his bail order, she said his obligation, in his bail order, she's saying the Mohsin Sheikh's religion was a provocation. His religion as a provocation, the person have been provoked because of the Mohsin Sheikh's religion. So we are giving them bail. So Dhananjay Desai got the bail because Mohsin Sheikh was a Muslim. So that kind of the discrimination we have seen in court without any particular law. Now, if you talk about the law, so everyone is discussing about the CEA, and many of our colleagues who will join this session, they will also discuss about the CEA, but I am discussing about some other discriminatory law, other Nuremberg kind of law. In 2015, we have seen Maharashtra is saying, and Maharashtra is coming up with a new law, which is the Animal Protection and Preserve Law, and they are saying that if anyone will come up with there's a slaughter of the bull or bullock or calf, 5-year jail term. So you can 5-year jail term for the bulls and 10-year term for the cows. And in some other cases, they said 7 years. Then Haryana government again and the ban on cattle transportation also. And because of this law, we have heard about Kolhapuri chappal. The research said 60,000 Dalit was working in Kolhapuri chappal industry, and because of this discriminatory law, Muslims have been suffered because of the meat business. Financially, they lost all meat business, and the Kolhapuri chappals business had been suffered, and 60,000 Dalit who were engaged with that business, they lost his daily bread and butter. Then again, Haryana government came with the cattle transportation, and they in 2017, and the Haryana government come up with in cattle sacrifice cases, they again come up with the 10 years. And most of the cases, when anyone find bone of the any animal, they claim the bones of that animal is not any other, it is a cow, and the report FIR launched against the any Muslim, and then behind the bar, burden of proof on the accused. On the in our language, burden of the proof is on a victim. Then now we came up again in the Gujarat is come up with the 2017 animal law, which is saying that animal cattle transportation law, animal husbandry, animal convention, unka naam, they are talking about some Gavansh Sanrakshan law. They are saying life imprisonment, full life in prison, and if someone transporting that animal, there is a fine in between 1 lakh to 5 lakh. And then you can imagine what kind of the police is working and what kind of the Bajrang Dal is working in Gujarat. So anyone who Muslim, those who even not having any kind of the cow, calf, bullock and anything, but FIR can be launched, and for around 10 years to full life and 1 lakh to 5 lakh 5 lakh penalty is there in that particular case. So these are the cases. These are the laws after that BJP government started from 2015. Started it from Maharashtra, then Haryana, then Gujarat, and Gujarat is a too much troubled. In case of Gujarat, it's a too much trouble, and if you go for the case study of the Gujarat, then you find in 2019 one person have been booked, Muslim, obviously Muslim person have booked, because the FIR have been launched against him. He served biryani of cow in his cow beef in his daughter's wedding, and again burden of the proof on that Gujarati Muslim family, and he served around 10. He is still in jail, not got the bail. Even Rajkot, the laboratory reports not confirm whether it is whether what the meat which is offered in biryani with it from mutton or cow or something else, but the person is behind the bar and burden of proof is on that person. He have to prove it. It was even 2 months, 3 months back when the FIR have been done and he have been arrested, then he have to prove he offered cow's beef biryani or mutton beef biryani. So that kind of the discrimination laws are going on, and no one is going to talk about that. Now we come up with a religious freedom law and religious discrimination, and that have been connected with the love jihad cases. First, in case of that, Uttarakhand Freedom of Religion Act come up in 2018. Then Himachal Pradesh come up with the Freedom of Religion Act in 2019, and then Uttar Pradesh Vidhi Vidhan Dharam Samparivartan. That is again on the targeting of the love marriages, which we have seen in Uttar Pradesh. Again, and the burden of the proof is on the family. Family and the woman is marrying into. And we have seen the cases, around 86 cases after that. In just 40 days of that bill, 86 cases have been registered, and 79 on them of the Muslims. And we have seen the case women, Bajrang Dal right-wing goons came and they forcibly women took to the police station, and women into the shelter house, and all 17 family members have been booked in a jail, and women have been miscarried. So, but after this turmoil, Allahabad High Court come up and given the relief of 129 couples. So we have seen these kind of the saga of hatred and discrimination. In the case of either it is, if you want to change your religion, you had to apply to the DM office, and you will get the 1 month time, and after the 1 month time, 1 month time, then you come up again and confirm it. Then that's mean you are giving 30 days time to the right wing goons to destroy you. And again, we have come up with the prohibition of trans. We have seen which in a Gujarat, if you want in a sample language, if I go according to the law, that's saying Transfer of Immovable Property Disturbance Area Act 2019, which is clearly showing if any Muslim want to sell his property, he cannot sell in his property in Gujarat until government confirm it. That is a law in Gujarat. So when 2019, when we have seen the Triple Talaq Act, which is saying Muslim Women Right on Marriage Act, which is called Muslim Women of Right on Marriage Act 2019, which is again criminalizing the civil matter into criminalizing of civil matter and saying 3-year jail term. And in Indian IPC, if we seen, then according to the IPC 154, which is saying 3-year jail term, which is equal to writing with a weapon. That 3-year jail term is for the writing with a some weapon, deadly weapon, equal to the Triple Talaq 3-year case. And now we have everyone have talked about that CA and NRC. So I'm not going to jump on that. CA had been passed, and we have seen a lot of things. And then you have came back again to the Germans' Nuremberg law. Why NRC? The Nuremberg law is saying 3 generation and the others thing. So that's why the NRC is there, and people are talking about the NRC. And just I'm coming up with my last point. It's about the foreign tribunal. There is 100 foreign tribunal which is working on Assam, and the major problem is with these foreign tribunals. These foreign tribunals are not part of the judiciary. They are appointed by the government, and they have a right to decide about your citizenship. And the important thing is that these foreign tribunals judges are on the contract basis with the state government. And 3 years back, when some judges have not got the renew of his contract, they went to the court, and in the court, Assam government said, these judges, we are not going to renew the contract of these judges. Why? Because these judges had not cleared many people as a foreigner. Their performance is too low. That's mean the pressure is on this foreign tribunal to perform. Performance is a mean that they have to come up with this kind of judgment. Majority of they are saying your performance percentage is 39%, and we are renewing the contract of 50% level. Mean if you are handling 100 cases, then you have to give the verdict 50% people are the foreigners. If you come back again in 1935 to 36, Jews were banned from the parks, restaurant, and all. And then in 1938, Nuremberg law is, according to Nuremberg law, is saying special ID card excluded from the pair. So you will find out what kind of the ID card they are talking about. The things have been started in the name of NRC and Assam, and in the again 1939, which we see if we compare with the Nuremberg law and what happened in Germany in India, then you will find it. They are after the ID card episode, after the NRC kind of the episode, they are talking about the eviction from the main places. And what is going on Assam after that NRC, which is the same thing which is going have been happen in Germany, eviction. 2 lakhs home have been identified for the evictions, and these kind of the discriminatory law is going on. If you will count it with the stories and overall, then it will take a lot of hours, but I have some 10 minutes, so thank you for that.
Thank you, Brother Nadeem. The horrors you are describing are just sending chills down my spine. Thank you for eloquently explaining what is happening in India. I would now invite our next panelist, Professor Apurvanand. Professor Apurvanand is a professor at the Hindi department in the University of Delhi. He's also a regular columnist and a political commentator. He's also a published author, and his essays have appeared in all major Hindi journals. He has been a voice of reason on the issues of education, culture, communalism, violence, and human rights. Professor Apurvanand.
Thank you very much, Amina, and thank you very, very much, friends, on behalf of Indians for organizing this important event, is to sensitize the world about what is happening in India. And it's serious, and we want the world to take note and stop it before it's too late. Therefore, it's important to understand the way Muslims and Christians are being targeted in India in a systematic manner. So one is by using laws or executive orders, which also have the force of law. Second is by using incessant propaganda, hate propaganda against them. And third is by using street violence or physical violence against Muslims and Christians. So all three together make life of Muslims and Christians nearly impossible in India. The aim is to illegalize or criminalize all aspects of the way of life of Muslims and Christians, their food habits, the way they worship, their worship places, the clothing, how and who they would love, their marriage and their conjugal life. Their economic life is also a target. Nadeem Khan has explained and also listed a number of laws, and I won't repeat them, but you can have three categories of laws. One is where your food habit is targeted. So you illegalize beef, you illegalize cow slaughter, you illegalize transport of cattle. So what you do, you're trying to change the food habit of Muslims and Christians and also Dalits. But it also affects their economic life, as Nadeem has explained, that it has affected in adverse manner the economic life of thousands of Muslims who were in the business of meat and also leather industry. So Muslims and Dalits together. So this is what these laws, which deal with prevention or prohibition of transport of cattle and making cow slaughter a criminal act, do. Second is what they call in popular parlance and in a very deprecating manner, love jihad laws, which make it impossible for a Muslim man. It especially targets Muslim men. It makes it impossible for a Muslim man to love and marry a non-Muslim, especially Hindu woman. Onus again is on Muslim man. And we have seen in hundreds of cases where it's not the woman or not the family members of woman, but some other person who lodges a complaint, and on the basis of that complaint, the man is arrested. Now he has to remain in jail for months and years. This is how this law works. So it makes shared life impossible. And third is through executive orders, and also, as Nadeem explained, by making the law in Gujarat, which makes it nearly impossible for a Muslim to buy property in so-called non-Muslim areas or shared areas, or even to sell his property. By enacting this Disturbed Areas Act. So the idea is to make shared life impossible and to push Muslims in ghettos, to ghettoize them. And now a talk has started in the state of Uttarakhand, where the ministers claimed that there is a planned conspiracy on behalf of Muslims to buy land and increase the population of Muslims in Uttarakhand. So they are promising their constituents to enact a law which would make impossible for Muslims to buy land in Uttarakhand. So this is what is happening in India. I'm not going to list the laws. There are too many. Many states are promising many more laws. If you go to the state of Assam, as I said, that executive orders are being passed, and they also have the force of law. For example, in Karnataka, the Karnataka government first informally pressurized school administration to disallow hijab in classroom. Then it, as an afterthought, it issued a government order to make it impossible for hijab to be worn in classroom. Now courts have entered, and now court in its interim order says that no religious symbol should be displayed in classrooms, which affects mainly Muslim girls who want to wear hijab. So through this government order, which is not a law, but has a force of law, you make it impossible for a hijab wearing Muslim woman to enter classroom. And in Assam, what the Assam government has done, it has made it a criminal act to sell meat, mutton, within 5 kilometers of a Hindu religious place. Now, you can build a temple anywhere, even in a locality where Muslims live, and you make it impossible for them to sell or eat mutton or meat or any, what they call in the non-vegetarian thing. These are the ways government of India is targeting Muslims and Christians. Apart from this, there are many informal ways. For example, Muslims had been offering Friday namaz, which is collective, obligatory collective Friday namaz in open spots in Gurgaon, which is very close to the national capital, Delhi, for years. But since 2018, now this open namaz has been made controversial. Hindutva groups have started demonstrating against them, and now the government has restricted and ordered open namaz, ordered its police not to let Muslims have this open namaz. So from 108 spots, it got restricted to 38, and now the knowledge that we have is that only on 18 spots Muslims can offer namaz. So the idea is to make Muslimness all public spaces, or to expel this Muslimness from all public spaces. All Muslim identity markers to be expelled from all public spaces. Muslims to be privatized in many ways, or Muslimness to be privatized and not made part of the national life. I'll stop here, and if there are questions, I'll be happy to take them.
Thank you, Professor. Yes, we would be taking questions at the end. Thank you for explaining lucidly the goal of this government to make coexistence of Hindus and Muslims impossible. And thank you for speaking and especially highlighting the quote unquote Hindu khatre mein hai. The Hindus are in danger. This is what the government sells, the idea to communalize and get more votes. Thank you, Professor, for that. I now move on to our next panelist, Mr. Akar Patel. Akar Patel is a senior journalist, podcaster, author, and former head of Amnesty International India before it was shut down in 2020. An anti-establishment scribe and BJP critic, Patel recently published his book, Our Hindu Rashtra, in which he explains where India stands today with respect to its constitutional promise of being a secular and democratic state. He's not here in person with us today, but he has sent us his remarks for all of us to hear. Can we have the video, please?
Since 2014, India has seen a very fierce Hindu nationalism that expresses itself essentially inwards at other Indians, mostly minorities, mainly Muslims. It manifests in three ways. The first is through the political exclusion of Muslims. In our 28 states, we don't have a single Muslim chief minister. In 15 states in India, there is no Muslim minister at all in the cabinet. In 10 states in India, there is one Muslim minister who is normally given the minority affairs portfolio, which is also the case with the union government, where the only Muslim minister has been given minority affairs. Of the BJP's 303 Lok Sabha MPs, none is a Muslim, and this was also the case in the last Lok Sabha, where of its 282 MPs, none was a Muslim. This is deliberate political exclusion, and it was the aim and the objective of the Janasangh as defined by Deen Dayal Upadhyaya in a 1965 speech he made in Pune, where he said that the aim of the Janasangh was the political defeat of Muslims, though this might seem more like political apartheid to the rest of us. The second way in which this Hindu nationalism expresses itself is through law on issues such as beef, citizenship, marriage and divorce, which has been criminalized for Muslims specifically. A non-Muslim man who is accused of saying the words talaq to his wife 3 times in one sitting does not get divorced from her and is not accused of a crime. A Muslim man who is accused of saying these 3 words to his wife is also not divorced from her, but faces 3 years in jail, which is the same sentence as rioting with a deadly weapon. The criminalization of the possession of beef, which came after the Prime Minister's urging to the BJP states in 2015, resulted in a spate of lynchings documented by 2 hate trackers, by the Hindustan Times and by India Spend, both of which were later forced to be taken down. 97% of all violence on the issue of beef and 100% of all fatalities that are known have come to us after 2015, and specifically because of these laws. Citizenship, while the CAA remains in suspended animation, it is still law, and it is a shame that the Supreme Court hasn't heard it, which is normally the case with a lot of the issues and laws and policies that affect Muslims, that the judiciary tends to either stand aside or side with the state, as we have seen in the issue of the Babri Masjid. The third way in which this manifests itself is through the devolution by the state of its use of force and its authority and its monopoly over violence. It has specifically empowered mobs, such as those in Gurugram, to block Muslims from praying in spaces that have been designated to them and given to them by the state. But the mob can actually overrule the state and stop the Muslims from offering namaz there. Similarly, Muslims who are vending in spaces that have been designated to them are taken off the streets and told that eggs can't be sold here, bangles can't be sold there. Muslim women and girls who are studying are told that the attire that they choose to wear is not part of the uniform, and they have no right to wear it. This will continue because there seems to be very little external influence on the BJP to stop it from going down this route. I think it is time that the world recognizes what is going on in India. Especially our friends in the rest of the democratic world who see the dangers of the spaces and the pathways that we are in right now, and the destination that these spaces and pathways lead us to and have led other nations to in the past, should recognize that we are in a difficult space right now and should come to our aid.
Thank you, Akar, for sending us your remarks. I'm very excited to introduce our next panelist, Ms. Afrin Fatima. Afrin Fatima is a student leader from Allahabad, UP. She's a prominent Muslim voice against the anti-Muslim policies of the Indian government. Formerly, she has been elected president of Women's College Students Union in Aligarh Muslim University in 2018 and 19. She founded Muslima Allahabad, a community group and study circle of young Muslim women in Allahabad. Afrin, please share your views and insights on this panel's topic.
Assalamu alaikum. Am I audible? All right. Thank you very much for inviting me to this very important summit. I mean, and I thank the coalition of organizations that have initiated this discussion on the worrying situation that is in India. So I thank the organizers of India on the Brink. And to start off, I'd like to say that my fellow panelists have, in a very amazing way, illustrated the kind of laws that have been used, be it through direct law or through executive orders, how minorities, especially the Muslim community, the Christian community, is being isolated, segregated, and how it mimics the Nuremberg laws. What is the irony to note here is that in the post-colonial nation that is India, it's an irony that colonial and imperialist and supremacist ideals are being used against its own citizens. One of the most contemporary, not contemporary, but one of the most controversial issues of Hindu nationalism is the entire propaganda that was created around love jihad. And this propaganda is worrying. And this is how the Hindu nationalists organizations like the RSS, the Rashtra Swayamsevak Sangh, Vishwa Hindu Parishad, VHP, Shri Ram Sena, Akhil Bharatiya Vidyarthi Parishad, ABVP, Hindu Jang Guruti Samiti, and similar Sangh Parivar organizations, the way they take an issue up and they hold active propaganda against it. They use media, social media, television media, news media, everything to criminalize, to segregate a community. In the case of love jihad, the whole idea has been shifted. The post-partition trauma is invoked of and Muslim men are presented as savage creatures who are out there to abduct Hindu women, and so the Hindu community has to wake up and save Hindu women, taking away their agency completely at the same time. So this propaganda, it marks its presence in visual and in print media. And because of its socio-political movement to protect religious sovereignty, this is why it appeals to the Hindu audience, it appeals to the Hindu community. The emotions are invoked. The entire issue is emotionalized, and the emotions of the Hindu community is banged upon to criminalize Muslims, to not just criminalize but dehumanize Muslims. I mean, the way these laws are used, be it the CAA, be it the love jihad law, and the recent ban on hijab, all these are taking away the humanity of the minorities in India. We are seen as not just as second-class citizens, we are seen as lesser humans in this country as of now. And while there is this propaganda against religious conversion, at one point of time there's how it's forced, and in terms of Islam, how Islam was spread by force, and how when they talk about Christianity, how Christian missionary organizations, they allure Hindus into the religion. There have also been campaigns, active campaigns like moral policing, Ghar Vapsi, Bahu Lao, Beti Bachao, how to save our women from terrorism of love jihad, Hindu Auraton ki loot, Love Trishul. These kind of campaigns are actively brought out to further stigmatize and to further emotionalize the Hindu community. So the biggest problem here that is not the fact that these laws are coming out, the fact that these laws are normalized, the fact that these laws are accepted in the 21st century. The fact that a law like the Citizenship Amendment Act, a law like the prohibition of unlawful religious conversion ordinance, which is commonly known as the love jihad law, is acceptable is the worrying thing. How the world's biggest democracy is allowing discriminatory anti-constitutional laws to even exist is the problem here. And what is the reason behind it? The reason behind is not a particular political organization. The reason behind is not a particular ideology of like the Hindutva. Of course, it is the driving force, but at the same time, it is the radicalization that has happened in the hearts and minds of the Hindu community that hates Hindus, that hates Muslims, that hates Christians, that believes in Hindu supremacy, that wants to make India a Hindu Rashtra. And this is what needs to be discussed. What are the ways in which we can de-radicalize the Hindu community? What are the ways in which we can ensure that laws like these are not accepted? I mean, we appreciate how the international community is taking cognizance of what is happening in India. The way ideals of faith are being, religious ideals are being attacked, the way it is almost criminal to be Muslim. And to add on all these things, I mean, it's disturbing that there is no response from anyone. People just don't care enough that such and such things are happening in India towards the Muslim minority, towards the Christian minority. The way that the Hindutva forces are functioning as of now, the way these laws are being brought out, and when something is legalized, it means that it is accepted. Like, you know, the collective conscience of this country allows a law like the Nuremberg law to exist in India in the 21st century. And this is the conversation that needs to be happening, that what is the course correction? How do we stop this radicalization, and how do we stop the Indian state to stop its monstrous activities on the Muslim minority, on the Christian minority, on the Dalits, on the marginalized communities? And with this, I would like to end. Thank you so much for having me. I hope we come up with a solution soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Afreen, for your courage and leadership and always being a vocal critic of the oppressive regime. Our final speaker of this session is Dr. Saida Hamid. Dr. Saida Hamid is an Indian social and women's rights activist, writer, educator. She is a former member of the National Commission of Women and a former member of the Planning Commission of India. She has been at the forefront of founding multiple rights and educational groups, including the Muslim Women's Forum, where she advocates for legal literacy of Muslim women, the Women's Initiative of Peace in South Asia, an organization that empowers women as catalysts for a climate of peace through dialogue, South Asians for Human Rights, and the Center of Dialogue and Reconciliation. In 2000, Dr. Hamid toured India's listening to voices of Muslim women, resulting in the landmark report, Voice of the Voiceless, Status of Muslim Women in India. Its recommendations were presented to the government, religious bodies, and the civil society of the policy formulations. She's not with us here today. Can we have her video, please?
It's a great pleasure and an honor to be invited to speak at this colloquium on a subject which is very close to my heart. I'm sorry I am neither at the venue nor can I participate virtually. I've just finished a long public hearing on the Delhi riots 2020, when Delhi became the killing field and hordes of right-wing marauders attacked Muslim bastis in northeast part of my city. This is a painful subject. This is in the context of the legal remedies, difficult to speak about it, but erosion of law becomes crucial. I'm talking to experts. I'm not an expert, but I know that hate speech is not one-off, but it is a systemic malady. It creates a systemic stigma around communities. Hate crimes, immediate, violent, but they also have indirect structural impact. Discrimination in employment, in the provision of public services. All day long, I have heard testimonies about that. Hate speech, hate crimes cannot have an answer only in criminal law. Needs a much more comprehensive constitutional approach. The principle of duty of care towards those populations who are vulnerable. And it goes beyond just booking violators under various sections of Indian Penal Code or any other penal code. And the long-term remedy which everyone propagates, but it's rarely carried out, is educating against this kind of discrimination. In the recent month, there have been, in my city, in my country, across the country, there have been rallies, and as my religious community has been described in pejorative terms. They are identified as predators of this land, its resources, and of Hindu women, particularly Hindu women. And it's advocated that there should be social, economic, and religious boycott. In some speeches recently, direct violence has been advocated as the final solution. On the 8th of August, 2021, a man who is a lawyer by profession and a spokesperson for the party in power, the BJP, called a rally in a central area of Delhi where rallies are generally held. It is called Jantar Mantar. The police had intelligence of this rally. This defied all the COVID protocols and defied all existing orders. The slogans that were raised at this rally violated every principle of dignified coexistence. And the authorities breached, the public authorities breached duty of care. That duty of care was also breached in the public hearing I just completed an hour ago. How will we be able to cope with this erosion of law? The epithets used for the Muslim community are difficult to repeat for me, and yet those are the realities that we face every day. 2,000 Muslims were massacred in a pogrom in Gujarat in 2002. 2022, it'll be 20 years since that massacre. It was a pogrom, and I want to end by recalling that just a few days ago, a lower court sentenced 38 Muslims to death for a bomb blast in the same city where 2,000 had been massacred in 2002. And the IT cell of the party in power put up a cartoon of 38 men in skull caps and beard hanging by a single noose. It was a Twitter campaign. Duty of care, the responsibility of every civilized state, has been violated, and I would request this very distinguished group of thinkers, scholars, philosophers, lawyers, to find a way out. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hamid. We are grateful to you for sending us your remarks. I'll open the floor for question and answers. We'll take the first question. This would be for Nadeem Khan. Nadeem bhai, are you?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
All right. We are left with 7 minutes, so we'll wrap this quick. So the question is, it is very evident that the government is escalating its oppression almost exponentially. Its policies as well as its responses to the dissenting voices is getting more and more extreme. I would like to understand from you, how is this oppressed community, especially the Muslim community, responding to it? And does it get enough support from the majority communities to be able to move the needle?
The important thing is that we have to find out what kind of the society we are living. There is a silent society in which we are living. Maybe they are supporting us, but they have no courage to support us in a public. In case of the political parties in Maharashtra, there is a act which I have mentioned on my speech. Now the government have been changed. If the new government have a bill, they can pass an executive order and discontinue that law. But all political parties are in hand in gloves when the atrocity, in the case of atrocities or discrimination against the Muslims are the issue. If you find out the Assam's NRC issue, these whole propaganda have been created by RSS. There is around 40 lakh, 30 lakhs Bangladeshis are living in Assam. But surprisingly, we have seen the Communist Party, Communist Party's Home Minister, at the time of H.D. Devgowda government, he briefed the parliament. There is a 30 lakh Bangladeshis are living in Assam. Then again, Congress State Home Minister Shri Prakash Jaiswal briefed Parliament. There is a 50 lakh Assam Bangladeshis are living in Assam. So you can now the final result after the NRC and a lot of biasness, there is a final result is 90 lakhs. So what you can do with the statement of Indrajit Gupta, Communist Party's Indrajit Gupta or Congress Party Shri Prakash Jaiswal, because people have suffered a lot because the anxiety of Bangladeshi and the NRCCA. So when you talk about the hatred against a Muslim, discrimination against a Muslim, we have the support of silent Hindu majority are here are in India. They can they are supporting us in hijab issue. We have received a lot of messages. But in case of political community, all political community are against the Muslim.
Should I respond to this question?
Yes, definitely, Professor.
I think Nadeem was being very modest. We should be blunt and brutal with the facts. And the fact is that the Hindu majority is not with Muslims in their quest for justice. It's a brutal fact, but it's a fact. And that's what we witnessed when Muslims were agitating against the discriminatory citizenship law. It was largely a Muslim protest. Hindus didn't even think it necessary to inquire from Muslims what their worry was. What Hindus did. Hindus thought that Muslims are creating an unnecessary irritation, and that's how the violence against Muslims in Delhi was organized. The violence was largely endorsed by Hindus. I won't say that that Hindus, it was an organized violence. So I won't say that majority of Delhi Hindus participated in it, but largely Hindus endorsed this violence. And Nadeem is right that majority of Indian political parties can be termed as Hindu political parties. What their concern is to somehow conjure a majority in election. And since Hindus are in majority, so they compete with each other for Hindu votes. And they think that if you are seen to be in sympathy with Muslims, then Hindus would turn against you. So the most dangerous thing that has happened in India, and that the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh has done, and other parties, by making RSS a mainstream thing, and by shaking hands with RSS and Bharatiya Janata Party on different occasions, and sharing power with them, they have normalized the politics of the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh, and a Hindu scare has been created. So all political parties think that the moment we are seen in sympathy with Muslims, Hindus would turn against them. And I remember that in 2002, we are meeting on 27th February. This is exactly 20 years from the pogrom, anti-Muslim pogrom in Gujarat, which started on 27th to 28th February in 2002, and which continued for months, not days, for months, we must remember. And in that pogrom, a senior Congress leader, Ehsan Jafri, was butchered, cut to pieces. And I still remember that the president of the Congress party was not allowed to meet the widow of Ehsan Jafri in public. She has not met him in public even now. So that is the level of alienation that Muslims suffer from. This we must take into account.
Thank you, Professor. I have another question for Professor Apurvanand. At one of our panels yesterday, Professor Bremen said that there were similarities between Hindutva and Adolf Hitler's Nazi period. The idea of superiority of genetic supremacy, that Hindutva is hierarchical, creating the idea of superiority and inferiority, and the idea of segregating those who are considered the enemies, who are then deported and exterminated. How do you compare today's India with Nazi Germany? And Professor, just as a reminder, we are at time, so we would have 2 minutes to answer this question, and then I'll go to Afreen.
I think it's more than comparable because Hindus are used to the idea of segregation, and Hindus are also used to the idea of hierarchy, because Indian society is mainly a caste-ridden society. We must understand it as a hierarchical society. So the idea of pollution, the idea of inferior beings is very much there in the common sense of Indians, all Indians, I would say, not only Hindus, more in Hindus, but in all Indians, even in Muslims, in Christians, Sikhs, all Indians. So for Hindus to believe in the idea of inferior human beings is easier than any other people. And that is what has happened here, because Hindus have been persuaded to believe that they are superior beings, and Muslims are inferior, and Muslims are intruders and latecomers to India, so they don't have equal right over India. So that is what we need to understand, that it's a hierarchical society, is a society which believes in the idea of pollution, and it treats others which are not part of their fold as pollutants.
Thank you, Professor. So my next question would be for Afreen. So Afreen, how are Muslims responding to this escalating oppression? Afreen, are you with us?
Yes. Am I audible?
You are.
All right. The response from the Muslim community of late has been an overwhelming rejection of savior ideology, an overwhelming rejection of trying to tell Muslims that you can't talk about this right now because elections is around the corner, or trying to say to us that don't talk about this or don't talk about that because it might polarize this person, it might radicalize that person. So we are over the insecurity that we are the problem here, and the inferiority complexes that have been fed to us, especially by the secular and liberal political parties who want to make us their slaves, in a sense that we are tied to them and we don't have any options. We have started to reject it, and we have started to realize that we have a voice of our own, and we will raise our voice no matter who comes and stands next to us and who does not come and stand next to us. So one thing that is for sure, that you will see Indian Muslims out on the streets. We are seeing Indian Muslims out on the streets. We are seeing Indian Muslims fighting in courts, in jail cells, on the streets, everywhere, and this fight will continue. And we are not going to be silenced anymore, and we are not going to be told that we are the problem, or we are radicalizing some people, or we are polarizing. It's not us, it's the people who are radicalized, it's the people who are hateful towards our community.
Thank you, Afreen. I have another question for you. You have been hounded by the media for speaking up, and especially during the anti-CAA protests. Can you please let us know if you have anything to say to the Indian media right now?
The Indian media has become a Radio Rwanda of its own. The way media is functioning, it's not just furthering the propaganda of Hindutva ideology, it's In fact, it has become a lynch mob of its own. I mean, it's not just about me. I mean, you see the way the girls who are protesting in Udupi, in Karnataka, the way they are being hounded, the way they are being chased by media, their personal details are being leaked there. They are, so the media is pathetic. It's in a pathetic condition. And the only, I actually don't want to say anything to a sellout media. I don't want to talk to people who I know are enabling my genocide, who are enabling violence against my community, against me, who applaud apps and websites like Sulli Deals in Bulli Bai, who in fact do media trials of Muslims activists, Umar Khalid, Sharjeel Imam, all of us. And it's for the world to realize that you cannot rely on what is coming out of media. You have to listen to what the Muslim community has to say. You have to listen to what the Christian community has to say. You have to listen to our voices and not what is coming out of media, because they are just a mouthpiece of what the state is enabling.
Thank you, Afreen. Thank you so much. To anyone, what would you like to say to those who are not in India but are concerned about what's happening to India? You can tweet about it, and you can tag your officials or any of the panelists right here. Thank you so much, Professor Apurvanand, Nadeem ji, Afreen ji, for joining us today, and Akar Patel and Dr. Hamid for sending us their remarks. Indeed, all of us here take hope and strength from the courage and leadership of people like you. Thank you so much.